I've been. Dreams are seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trails. Inventive journey never fails. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small but shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align. Your time is now, your stars align.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Justin Roopnarine. And Justin started his journey and went into high school. It was a bit of a rougher student body there, but made it through. And then went off to college, got a degree in engineering, and learned to think and to solve problems. Afterwards, got a job as a software engineer and found out that wasn't for him. So went to work for the Air Force, not airport, Air Force, and worked on some cool problems. Didn't like necessarily the path or the outlook of the path that was set him on. So parted ways, and as he was parting ways, I got some exit training and had some time to figure things out, and went to New York and worked in finance for a period of time, and then as a data analyst and data scientist down in Florida before shifting over to the business, which is what he's doing now. So with that much as a quick run through and introduction, welcome to the podcast, Justin.
Hey, thanks, Devin. Great intro. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely excited to have you on. So I just gave a real quick run through on a much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack it a little bit and tell us a little bit about or how your journey got started, going to a little bit of a rougher high school.
Sounds good. Hey, so to that point, right? High school, college time frame. So the high school I went to was Lake Worth High School and also Stillman Douglas. So if you know anything about the South Florida area, one is a little bit of a rougher area, one's a much better area. But the key lessons kind of learning through there were, hey, everyone's experiencing something different. So just touching on those briefly, right? In the high school time frame or even early college, I was one of the lucky few who had a pretty decent idea of the general path I wanted to follow. I liked engineering, I liked math, I liked understanding how things work together. And once you kind of understand it, these complex systems sometimes become relatively simple. So, that helped, I guess, shape a lot of my thinking and upbringing. Hey, I wanted to do something that, if you ever heard of the campfire rule, just try to invent something or build something, improve some sort of system and leave the world a better place. That's kind of how I started. And that was the ethos I had throughout high school. So I was lucky in that aspect. Um, Early college, I went to a school, as you mentioned, called Florida Atlantic University, also down here in South Florida. What I studied was electrical engineering, and honestly, a continuation off that campfire rule. High school teaches you the basics. It gives you the, I guess, breadth of experience of a large group of people. College is a little bit more specialized, right? And these are before the Chat GPT days. So taught you a little bit more how to work in teams, how to, truly think critically about certain problems and understand, hey, why is this happening? What's not happening? And long story short, working with incomplete information, breaking problems down, working in the lab, and of course, making some lifelong friends. So uh, I was lucky in college, and this is kind of transitioning into the career now, where sophomore year, actually, yeah, I got an internship at a company called Belkin. What they do there, what I did there was, planes got to fly. So we did a bunch of system tests on airplane engines and whatnot. That was my first actual corporate esque experience, and it wasn't one of those, you know, build, refill the coffee, make me coffee kind of internships. It was actually a pretty good experience where, I was working hand in hand with full-time engineers, kind of applying what I've learned in an engineering role, um, and kind of just carrying that forward. Luckily, after graduation, started working there full-time. But here's kind of where the first, I don't know, transition S point, I guess I would call it, occurred. Be it that, hey, I'm doing engineering work. This is technically pretty cool. I'm in South Florida, have a job right out of college, apartment. It's nice. Um, but am I really following the campfire rule with this? Like, I can stay here. Actually, not to dote on anyone, but there's still people now, maybe 10 years still at the job, which is nothing wrong with that. But it's like I knew at that time, I could not do this role for 10,
And what,
20
and
plus
just out of
years.
curiosity, and by all
Yep.
means, preaching to the choir. I got an engineering undergraduate, and then went off and did entrepreneurship and a legal or law degree. So I certainly can appreciate, enjoying engineering, but while not wanting to be an engineer. But kind of for you, what was the part of that kind of role, or that career that was, or saying, hey, maybe this isn't for me, or I want to go in a bit of a different direction? Kind of what was the genesis of that?
Yeah, the Genesis, I mean, it goes back to, I guess, significance and purpose, right? At the end of the day, it is a purposeful role, right? You're building tests for airplane engines to make sure everyone flies safely, the engine works properly, working in a team, solving problems. But, it just becomes monotonous. And to the point where, you wake up every day, you're doing the same thing, same people, same problems, I guess, just different flavors of it, if that makes sense. And there's this sense of, you know, is what I'm doing, this actually matter in the long run? Am I working towards my, I don't know, long-term goals or how I feel inside? And the answer was a resounding no for me. Luckily, at that job, there were a few folks who were former veterans, particularly in the Air Force, and that's how I transitioned on to the next step, right? They told me about the Air Force, about commissioning into formally into OTS, or officer training school. So that's exactly what I did. Why did I do that? It was just at that time, like I said, it was monotonous in my opinion. I wanted to work on cooler problem sets, something different. And luckily, I was able to do that. And it worked out again. Uh, I was after OTS, which is basically our basic training. My title was a 62 Echo, or developmental engineer focused in electrical engineering. Long story short, and I got stationed over to Vandenberg Space Force Base, or Air Force Base. It was called maybe a few years ago. Thing there, I mean, I'm working on cooler problems now. What that basically means is, hey, our mission there is the U.S. at all times must have assured access to space. All right, so we got to have the ability to be able to deploy rockets, deploy payloads at all times. And I was working a lot with SpaceX, I had Launch Alliance and all the government POCs. Hey, we have to ensure our electrical systems, and it was great, right? Um, you would think it's honestly a dream come true. I get to work on aerospace engineering, one of the coolest things at that time, I guess, with some great people, great team, in a great location in Central Coast, California. Uh,
So now,
from
oh,
there,
go ahead.
yeah, no, from there, I felt fulfilled for a bit, right? Not to get too patriotic, but it's like, hey, you're fulfilling something, you're doing what's the expression where you just, living for a purpose bigger than yourself or whatnot, serving the country. It seemed cool. Um, it just, not to dote on it too much, but worked a few software engineering jobs over at Nellis. Came back, worked in program management after you get kind of more into your Air Force career. But that same kind of what am I doing? It was just hitting me again, in a sense, where it's like it's a great mission, it's a great team, everything. Um, but there is just something missing. At that time, just a quick aside, um, I kind of got bit by the, so to say, finance bug. This is what led to my current business on Limitless Capital. Um, and dive into that a little bit more. Throughout my whole career, even going back all the way to high school, I was always interested in investing, whatnot. Because I know we stopped at the high school time frame, but before then, just to touch on it, right? I grew up pretty well off, and then '08 happened, and everything all of a sudden changed. You know, without going to, lost everything, house, family. It was extremely rough, and it kind of made me or instilled a sense of, hey, we have to save money, we have to preserve capital, we have to be good with what we're doing. And I didn't realize it until later on, all the investing and whatnot, capital stewardship, that I became passionate about. I enjoyed learning about all these different vehicles or ways to make preserve capital. Um, so going back to the present or the Air Force career, one little thing about there is your path is kind of set. Oh, to a certain extent, where your 20-year career, so to say, is kind of planned out. You're going to do operations, maybe 4 years at a program management office, maybe your squadron officer school or college or whatnot. And it was going in a direction where I guess my interest in what I want to do didn't necessarily align. So two things happened. One, I founded Limitless Capital, which is our fund at that time as I was
And
transitioning out of
just
the Air Force.
quick
Yeah.
question, not to dive in. So
No.
definitely, again, makes sense. I haven't been in the Air Force or in any of the, the armed services, but have a number of family members, particularly on the in-law side, that have done that. And they love it, enjoy it, and they get told where to go, what to do, what to show up. And if they have to move, they move. And, it's just that lifestyle. So I can certainly appreciate it fits well for some people and they enjoy it and it's a good fit. And other times you're saying, hey, I want a bit more of that directional freedom as to decide what I want to do and how I want to do it. So as you are now kind of coming out of, doing that, you mentioned, and you'll get into it a little bit on the kind of the fund you started and created and went in that direction. But as you're coming out, because I think you had, if I remember right, and putting words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, you had like a 6 month kind of exit where they kind of help you to figure out what you want to do or kind of what your options are or kind of go in that direction. But maybe kind of walk us through how you made that transition out of the military into to what you decided to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're completely right on that point. So to touch on that, when limitless capital and that, finance bug bit me, right? My passions at that point became finance, innovation, tech, and kind of the intersection of all of those. So I don't remember the exact time. I think maybe it was first, or it was short after maybe the first or second year. I kind of knew I was leaving. Now, not to say that kind of checked out. But I kind of had the plan in mind where Limitless Capital was formed, and maybe the best transitions happen before the actual transition. But to your point, what the military kind of allows you to do sometimes in your last 6 months is what's called a skill bridge internship. And long short story short, all it is kind of if you've decided to separate, which you kind of start that process anywhere from a year before your final out date or maybe 6 months, you decide, hey, I want to kind of do an internship. at a private company of my choice as I transitioned out of my last 6 months. So I chose a bank called Drexel Hamilton, investment bank up in New York. And because at that point I had found a limitless capital, my career for the most part, engineering, and I never really had a formal finance, nothing really about, I like investing and whatnot, but how do you actually work in a bank or whatnot? And that's what it taught me, right? Those 6 months, I got lucky again, such to the fact where it wasn't just a get a coffee internship. It was like working on decks, meeting partners, learning how the VP work, how to debt capital markets, everything. I would like to say that's my first formal introduction to, I guess, high-end-esque finance. And it was great. So skill bridge internship for any transitioning veterans would definitely take advantage of it. And the internship itself was great. For context, like I lived in South Florida most of my life. Family's from New York. So it allowed me to go back up there, kind of left the apartment house in California, stayed with family for 6 months, got to learn just deep dive into finance more. If you're familiar, Series 65, 7, did all that. um, the one thing from there, and if I were to change paths at that time, I don't think I would have done it, right? That traditional analyst, VP, etc. route. I was just too passionate about the fun and what I want to do. And I'll touch on all that, why I wanted to do it so badly. But it was great. Appreciative of the people. The team there was actually able to grab a few people and have them join the advisory board later on. So great experience. Now, kind of during this time frame was a lot of moving parts. Limitless Capital was formed, started as an incubator fund. Um, yeah, another takeaway, if you're ever trying to start a fund yourself, it's a great way to do it and kind of test the waters to make sure what you're doing is correct, your thesis, the work, the legal. But after that, going to conferences, trying to get people on the board, just trying to scale our operations, raise capital, it's a challenge, especially for a first-time manager. And I realized certain things were missing. So long story short, after that skill bridge had ended, um, I did want to pursue higher education, be it in financial engineering or mathematical finance, uh, while also kind of earning kind of a day job income. So, got a job actually back in South Florida, still supporting special operations. So it was cool while also going to school for financial engineering. And it was a great decision because, if you can't tell, like a lot of what I've done is just, hey, what pieces am I missing that I need to get in order to build our fund better and actually get back to LPs, go after that mission, kind of abide by my head, the campfire rule or whatnot. Just keep gaining knowledge, keep learning. So did that exactly. All right. Had a great experience at University of Miami, graduated with financial engineering back recently. And at the same time, we're scaling the fund, meeting new partners, trying to, all right, how do we, maybe from your, if you're able to offer some advice here too. The legal structure of it was immense. I had no legal background, was able to get a great team, help me through it. The formal financial or quantitative space, whole other world. So I had to get those pieces. That's what financial engineering is for. If you can't tell, a lot of engineers are introverts inside, and that's me too. So the aspect of like trying to capital raise and be social and go to all these things and shake hands or whatnot, and just get your name and face and whatnot out there. A lot of was learned, a lot of lessons learned there, and happy to dive into those too. But it was just a constant learning experience while all these parts are going. Because, the key was every day I woke up and I was passionate about it. I liked doing this stuff for whatever reason. And all that's kind of led till now. As a partner at Limitless Capital, we can go back and dive into it. But my main responsibilities, Limitless Capital is a global equities fund. As partner right now, my top three, I guess, our top three responsibilities are scaling and managing our operations, internal infrastructure, whatnot, refining our investment thesis, of course, how to be more efficient, tax optimization, etc. And then maybe the most important, capital introductions, continuing to fuel the vehicle itself. And those are my three main responsibilities. So that's the journey in a nutshell, kind of up until now, and happy to dive into any of those portions as need be.
No, it's definitely a cool journey and a lot of good evolutions along the way, kind of figuring out, what you're going to do now. So, and you touched on it a bit, but kind of catch us up. So, where's the fun at today, and kind of any home runs that you invested early on in Tesla or SpaceX or something, and now everybody's billionaires or still building it or still finding your footing or having a lot of exciting opportunities or 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 bordering on the verge of bankruptcy or somewhere between, but kind of catch us up a little bit as to where things are at today.
Yeah, of course, not to get too salesy or whatnot, but just where we are today, right? It is a first time fund. So, with those three verticals I mentioned earlier, I'm still learning. And like I said, everything is just how do I accumulate more knowledge to essentially be better at what I can do and kind of abide by this campfire rule at the end of the day. It's still in my head. I still want to invent something, some people, process, procedure that gives back to some way. I just thought the fund would be the best vehicle to do it because A, I'm passionate about it. Two, it's one of the most scalable vehicles that for intellectual innovations that has been invented, in my own opinion. And three, to be frank, sometimes you need the capital to make change. So those are the three. But as far as lessons learned, to your point, SpaceX and Tesla. I mean, I don't want to date this one, but no, unfortunately, no, we couldn't get into the SpaceX IPO in time or whatnot. But yeah, there were a lot of lessons learned. From more of the investment side, not to give any advice or whatnot, but you can't always predict the outcome. Whether it be a stock going up or down, or this thing going bankrupt, or this guy leaving with the cash. But you can manage risk to a certain extent. That limitless capital primarily focus on derivatives, not to dive into it too much, but it's a very unique vehicle where you're specifying the amount of risk you're taking based on, predetermined outcomes, so to say. So it's unique. As far as just other interesting lessons to learn, going back to legal, have your ducks in a row. Definitely have your private placement memorandum, have everything OPA. That's a very important part, very expensive and important part to just have aligned. Or I guess your investment thesis needs to be rock solid, incorporated in writing, and that's what your private placement memorandum is. That all needs to be clear. So just to touch on that in a second, I'm a firm believer where it's like, all these complex systems or whatnot, they just, if you can't explain them clearly and in writing, it's not exactly the most helpful. Just making your legal docs, your investment thesis, your private placement memorandum, and writing that all out, like, hey, this is how our idea works, how it will work, what not to do. And it's a great exercise. I don't mean to digress too much, but as from a legal point of view, that was probably interesting. From an investment point, that's great. From just an overall, hey, learning, networking, friendship building, it's been interesting. I've been lucky to find a bunch of similar groups, people who are also emerging or first-time managers or very experienced managers. And at least, so to say, I don't want to call it just emerging manager community is pretty opening. And, with the advent of the internet and GPT and all these groups, it's a lot more accessible than it was in the past. And I would honestly argue it's a lot more cheaper to at least do an incubator fund, to actually do a formal fund to launch. It's great. So, and just get out there. The marketing aspect is unique too. And there's a lot like touch on, but I don't want to dive on too much. Any particular questions, concerns on it?
No, that's definitely a great walkthrough. It was a fun overview to hear your journey, and was a great to catch up to kind of where things are at today, and a bit where they're headed. So really, with that, I don't have any and more questions other than I always like to wrap up each episode with the same two questions. So we are going to jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
Yeah. So worst business decision so far, hopefully. So maybe it goes back even before, but especially during the early days of Limitless Capital, even now, right? Just because you have an idea in your head. I assume like it automatically makes sense to other people. Like for some reason, maybe it's a problem with like first-time managers or founders too. The ideas just, I mean, they seem clear in your head, albeit there's different moving parts, systems, etc. Whatever. For example, right now we have the fund, we have a media group, we have a veteran this aspect, but all the goals and everything, how they intertwine, all make sense in my head. But when trying to explain it, it was sometimes a run into difficulty. Like, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. And it's good to call you out on it, call you out on it, because if going back to that explain your EL5, you ever heard of that? Like explain it to me like I'm five ethos. You can't explain something clearly. You can't write it down as a system or process. And sometimes maybe you can. But I honestly want to say like 90, 95% of the time you probably could. Have your ideas concrete. Because sometimes when something is misinterpreted, or you just miss one little instruction, or you're not able to express your ideas clearly, they get misconstrued. There's a butterfly effect. You don't know where that's going to go. So, biggest mistake, thinking my ideas or thinking the ideas of the team or investment thesis or legal, it's in the head of everybody. You have to be able to clearly write these things down, explain them, test them, and just stress test them to a certain extent. So I think that was the mistake, not having certain things clear and not making sure they were clear, unfortunately.
No, I like that. And kind of to build on it, I think there is definitely an art form involved in being able to explain things clearly. And I'm coming at it from a different perspective of I work with a lot of startups and small businesses and helping them with, patents and trademarks. And, the inherent thing when we have meetings, if they're kicking off a patent as an example, we go into the details of the invention. And the inherent thing is to get super technical and dive right in. And not that those details aren't good, but way before that, you need to set the stage of simply what is the problem you're solving and what is the issue that you're encountering that was the motivation. And they still want to get really technical. I say, take a step back. The person I always use is my wife, love her to death. She's awesome, amazing. She is opposite of me and not a technical person, doesn't enjoy the techie side and loves the simple things in life. And I always say, explain it to a level that she would be able to understand it. In other words, non-technical, doesn't have the details. And if you can get to that level, then you're making progress. And if you can't get to that level, then you need to reevaluate how to explain it. And I think that there is an art to it. And sometimes, people tend to stumble there. So I think that's definitely an easy area for a lot of people to make that mistake, but a great one to learn from.
Wholeheartedly
Second,
agree.
yep. And second question now that I'd like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one rule of thumb that you'd recommend?
Rule of thumb. I guess, show up, be present, have passion. And then I know it's broad. So what I mean by that is, when you're just starting these things out, right? Showing up is half the battle. Like being present, being active, actually working towards what you're going after. Having the passion. Like I said in the story, a lot of the things I did were just because I enjoyed doing them day after day. Like there was no burnout, there was nothing. I actually enjoyed, working and learning and whatnot. So being present too, not just for the fun, but for the people involved and whatnot. And it just maybe a slight counterpoint to that, right? I agree. You have to show up, be present, have passion, but also be able to set aside time for people that matter to you, things. So, for example, as silly as it sounds, um, every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., there is a block on my calendar, and that is date night. And that is a special time I set aside, just to spend time with my girlfriend right now. We take time to just do something, whether it's cooking, going out, seeing a movie, whatnot. So the takeaway, I guess, for just newer startup founders or whatnot, yes, you have to show up. You have to be present. You have to be there for your idea, your team, your people. Well, you also have to be there for the things and people that matter to you kind of outside of work. So don't be afraid to block. Maybe it's just a me. I schedule kind of everything as little as it's a date night, cooking date, investor meeting, whatnot. Everything's on the calendar. Everything has time. Everything has purpose. So I guess that's one of my takeaways from that.
No, and the funny thing is, I think that showing up simple as it sounds, more often than not, that puts you ahead of a large percentage of the competition. I'm coming from it, the issue within the legal industry, again, pulling from what I know, tons of attorneys are awesome, great, do a great legal work, and yet they won't even return a call. They don't respond to clients. They don't pick up the phone. And just by the very easy bar to get over of answering the phone, responding and showing up and just doing what you said you would, you're well beyond most of the attorneys in the competition. So I think the ability to simply show up and do what you said you would, whatever aspect, where you said, whether it's date night work, being there as a founder or partner or anything else, well set you ahead of the competition. So I think that's a great rule of thumb. Well, now, as we do wrap towards the end of the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, sure. If you want to learn more about the fund or myself, the website is limitlesslp.com. Just scroll down on the bottom. There's a contact us form. On another note, if you want to just reach out to me personally, any questions, LinkedIn is probably the best bet. At Justin Roopnarine, and I know it's a tough one. It's ROOPNARINE. Those are probably the two best methods.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, expand their network, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So, with that, thank you again, Justin, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So, just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup, your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we are always here to help. Well, thank you again, Justin, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you again.
The road ain't straight, it's got a bend. Dreams of seeds we plant, my friend. Dusty boots, but a heart of gold. Your story's waiting to be told. Inventive journey, here we go. Through highs and lows, we let it flow. Startups rising, small be shine. Your time is now, your stars align. Cowbell ring and feel the beat. Hustle hard, don't take a seat. Every step you're blazing trail. Inventive journey never fails.